welcome to the kickoff for our Learning Communities Resource Center. This is the third round of the Learning Communities that we're launching, and just wanted to thank the generous support of the Office of Community Services for providing the funding that makes these learning communities possible. We really think that the Learning Communities is the premier place in our network to be for agencies that want to learn more about evidence-based programs and innovative service delivery strategies that improve outcomes for the children, families, and neighborhoods that our agencies serve. You're going to hear more this afternoon about what we have to offer in the Learning Communities, the content that we're providing our agencies, what you'll be working on during the Learning Communities, and how to apply for them. So Tiffany Marley is going to take it away in just a few short seconds to get into all the details. But just wanted to acknowledge the promise of community action up on the screen. We often start out with a promise at a lot of our meetings here at the Community Action Partnership, but just wanted to remind everybody about our ultimate mission as a community action network, and we really think the Learning Communities is one of the things that takes the promise to heart. And so thank you all again for joining us. One more slide before we go ahead and get into the details. We just wanted to remind everyone about our national theory of change and where the Learning Community fits into the overall community services block grant performance management framework. So we do a lot of work with our agencies here at the partnership on a variety of issues. We work on the organizational standards. We work very closely with NASCAST on Roma Next Generation and the annual report. But you see right there in the middle in our national theory of change those services and strategies, and that's really the heart of the Learning Community. It's about helping our agencies continue to improve outcomes by learning about those evidence-based programs and innovative service delivery strategies. And so with that, I want to pass the mic over to our project director, Tiffany Marley, who will go over the agenda for this afternoon, and then we'll get into the details of what you can expect from this round of our Learning Communities Resource Center.
Let's go ahead and dive right in. And in the spirit of our approach that we utilize within the Learning Communities Resource Center, we want to get you engaged right now. And so if you would right now click on the chat window that is located in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, I'd like for you to answer the following question for us. And that is, what would you say is the #1 need impacting families that you serve in your community? So if very quickly you would write that in, and as you're writing into the chat window, I just want to go ahead and say a little bit more. The reality is that poverty continues to be pervasive within our society. In addition to that, the complexities that exist for low-income families, and in particular low-income families who have children, continue to be more and more complex. And that really calls for a specialized approach as it relates to breaking the cycle of poverty, oftentimes poverty that is intergenerational poverty. And thank you very much for your responses, and we can see the various things that you all have identified as needs. And as I have asked this question to colleagues around the country, a lot of your responses very much resonate with responses that we hear every day. And as I was saying earlier, given these pressing needs, it really calls for a very specialized approach in terms of strategies and services and approaches that we would utilize to move families forward. And we all know our history as the Community Action Network. We were born out of the 1964 War on Poverty, and there were certain situations and certain complexities at work within that context that required our agencies, who were very adaptive at that time, to respond to those needs. And the reality is that our society has changed, and the realities for our families have changed. And so it means that we, as a network, need to continue to be in that mindset of changing and thinking differently about the ways that we meet the needs of families. And as we think about our framework within the Learning Communities Resource Center, we really see the various learning opportunities that we have available for families to be concentrated in a way that provides families that provides agencies with an opportunity to really receive some very customized technical assistance that helps to potentially inspire agencies to think differently about the way that agencies do business, and there again, think differently, or to really change the service delivery approaches or strategies that touch the lives of families and communities on a daily basis. And at the end of the day, we see our work as being that opportunity for you all as members within the learning community to have an opportunity to engage in a metamorphosis, as it were, or feel that transformation and fly like the butterflies that you see on the screen here. And similar to the butterfly as it is engaging in the pollination process, we can look at the very next slide related to that. Thank you. I think we're in sync now. Sorry. But as we think about the pollination process, as our agencies undergo that transformation, our feeling is that that you all will be mobilized in a new and different way to be able to maximize not only the number of families that you serve, but also maximize outcomes for those families on a deeper level. And so, with that said, I just want to make one critical statement, and that is that the learning community is for you. It's really for the entire network. And if you are wondering about where you fit in, hopefully as a result of today's presentation, you will have clarity about what that specific level of engagement may need to be for yourself as an individual and for your agency. And so let's take a moment to just look a little closer at what the purpose is for the Learning Communities Resource Center. We really see its purpose as being analyzing community action outcomes and identifying those effective, promising, and innovative practice models that alleviate both the causes and the conditions of poverty. And I want to emphasize our focus around the causes and the conditions of poverty. And at the end of the day, our goal or our intent is to build your capacity so that you can fight poverty more effectively. And so as we think about this whole notion of the learning community, or as we think about learning community models, there's a lot of research out there. There are lots of examples out there that speak about it. I think the Harvard Center on the Developing Child really kind of touches on key aspects of the frame that we are living into as we go forward with the project. And that is that the participants in the group all have an aligned or shared goal that, in essence, what the agencies who participate will identify that they might think about and what they might do is practical. So the things that we will identify, we see those things as being very attainable, while at the same time being innovative in nature. And that whole notion of working across boundaries. And so we really see the learning community as a learning community. We are a community of learners and come from different parts of the country, from different orientations, so to speak. But in our coming together, we will hold members accountable with a common agenda, and it's very much connected to this whole notion of common metrics and common outcomes. And at the end of the day, the goal is that there would be a rapid transformation, a change that would take place on that agency or individual level. So as your agency thinks about potentially becoming involved with the learning community, up front we can tell you for sure you're going to get something out of it, but then also we know that as you as individual agencies are going to get something out of it, we're confident that the entire network will win. And so to talk a little bit more about how the learning community is structured, it is comprised of topical learning community groups and communities of practice that focus on innovative anti-poverty approaches, strategies, or services. And within the respective groups, the group members are focusing on shared topic areas. There is a wonderful opportunity for free, let me say this, for free technical assistance. There are not a lot of places that you can go within our field and get free technical assistance that's customized towards your need. This is an investment that the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services invested in our network through the Office of Community Services, and there was a specific goal in mind, and that was for us to continue to build our capacity to meet those anti-poverty outcomes. And in addition to that, I've already mentioned that whole word innovation. Really, I think that the learning community lends itself to experimentation. You can think about sort of the various kinds of things that we talk about as a network, really from the performance management framework to just a lot of different things, but really the learning community gives us an opportunity to work some of that stuff out in context and in community with one another. And at the end of the day, the goal is for all of us to learn from what happens as a result of engagement in the learning community groups or in the communities of practice. And so we spend a lot of time telling the story of what works and what doesn't work, and we want to share that as broadly as possible for our network, for the Community Action Network. So with that said, as we look at the next slide, it really provides you with a picture of our framework in the coming year. And here's what I want to emphasize, and it's something that I have already said before. The learning community is for all of you. And the ways in which we want to ensure that that will happen is that we will offer the network frequent expert-led national webinar presentations. We continue to research and develop resources that we will continue to disseminate or make available to everyone in the network. In addition to that, there are opportunities for peer learning and technical assistance at different levels. And now let me just say a little bit more about the different levels of engagement that are available within the context of the learning community. And I want to start by talking about our intensive learning community group. And so in addition to those things that I just mentioned that the entire network will have access to, the intensive learning community groups will have access to ongoing opportunities for peer sharing, opportunities to work on a specific plan through our goal planning process, and we'll just have that opportunity for customized technical assistance related to whole family approaches, related to financial empowerment for families, related to integrated services. And I'll say a little bit more about those specific groups in a moment, and then jump down to our next level of engagement, which is our open learning community groups. Our open learning community groups will consist of short-term webinar series that agencies can voluntarily sign up for. So you sign up, everybody gets accepted into the open learning community groups. But in essence, you have an opportunity to sign up for a series related to results at the community level, health intersections, cultivating data centered organizations, decreasing family homelessness. And within those groups, your agency can choose to follow the entire series, or it may choose to participate in those presentations on demand. But the point is that as you look at this framework, there is an opportunity for agencies to engage at multiple levels within the context of the learning community. The next point of engagement that I would like to call out for us within this framework is our communities of practice, which we're going to talk a little bit more about later in our presentation today. But within the communities of practice, we have a whole family approach for economic mobility from poverty community of practice, and we have a pre-existing community of practice called Rural Impact, which many of you are familiar with. As we look at the next slide, it just provides you with a crosswalk of what participants can expect to get out of the open learning community groups versus the intensive learning community groups versus our communities of practice. And we'll give you an opportunity to look at that comparison, and we'll say more about the nuances in terms of what those levels of engagement are in our written publications. So going to the next slide, it just, there again, sort of gives you a different glimpse, and what I will call out is that our open learning community groups span from a 3 to 6 month time period. Our intensive learning community groups are a 12-month engagement. Our communities of practice, particularly our whole family approach community of practice, is an 18-month engagement. And so if we look at our next slide, it just provides you with more of a descriptor of our various learning community groups, or our LCGs, and I won't talk through all of those for the sake of time, but we included those for you so that you can get a little more detail about what the scope of each one of those groups will be. That information is also included in your application package. It's available on the partnership website, and of course you can just reach out to us, and we're happy to provide you with additional context as it relates to those respective groups. So looking at the process, particularly for our intensive learning community groups, the groups will basically progress through 4 phases. And in particular, they will move through the formation and knowledge building phase between February of 2018 and August of 2018, and then progress between our implementation and practice transformation phases between August of 2018 and January of 2019. And the thing to keep in mind is that along the way, within the process, our team will bring a lot of intention to making connections to this whole notion of data tracking and analysis. I will stress to us on the front end that results-oriented management and accountability, we call it ROMA. ROMA principles are deeply embedded into everything that we do within the context of the learning community. And so if you become a member, by default, you're going to learn more about what ROMA is, but also what it means to implement that in a meaningful way that helps your agency to maximize its anti-poverty outcomes, period. And all of that, of course, connects to our national performance indicators and our annual reporting process that every agency has to engage in. And the next slide just provides you just with a different kind of visual to show how that process works for us, because within the context of each of our learning community groups, through our goal planning process, the first thing that we will do is help participating agencies to identify what that need is, or what that enhancement is that is necessary to to advance the work of the program or of the agencies. And then the big part of our work is helping agencies to identify those appropriate services or strategies that really advance or move the work forward towards those outcomes that need to be attained or accomplished, and those national performance indicators as mentioned. And I'll say it again, our goal is to maximize impact such that ultimately we begin to place cracks in the foundations of poverty that pervade our communities around the country. And so to say a little bit more about what agencies can look forward to as participants in the learning community, we're excited, as I've already mentioned, that we'll be able to offer a national webinar series, and we are offering a special feature. We're calling it Webinar Wednesdays. And so most Wednesdays, you will have an opportunity to look on the Learning Communities Resource Center calendar and see an expert-led national webinar presentation on anti-poverty practices. Additionally, our team has developed several new publications. I want to say we're up to about 11 new publications that we have written and that are in production within the last 6 months that draw on the learning from the previous iteration of the learning community, and we're just continuing to develop more and to also research various resources. And so we'll be able to offer everyone these resources for free within our network. The other significant feature that we would like to call out is our brand spanking new Community Action Academy. And it is in the Community Action Academy, which is housed in the Moodle platform, that will, one, allow you to apply for the learning community. It will be our main online learning hub for our intensive learning community groups and our communities of practice. Also, participating agencies will have an opportunity to access online, on-demand videos related to our various topic areas. And the cool thing is that it allows for participating agencies to access activities and assignments that deepen that learning, and then there's an opportunity for that peer engagement. And so for you to communicate across the network with other peers who are thinking about the various anti-poverty approaches and to share ideas, and then ultimately you're able to track your progress, but we're also able to track your learning process through the Community Action Academy. And so those are some of the things that you have to look forward to. I am now very excited to hand the baton over to my wonderful colleague, Ms. Jeannie Chaffin, who is the former director of OCS and is now working at the partnership as a consultant for our Community Action Economic Mobility Initiative, which is being funded by the Annie E. Casey Foundation.
Through this brand new initiative, the Community Action Economic Mobility Initiative, as you said, Tiffany, it's been funded by the Annie E. Casey Foundation, and they have helped us by providing some resources for us to design and implement a multi-tiered system of support for community action agencies who are interested in learning more and shifting to a whole family approach in their work. And so we're going to provide a little bit of detail today about that, but we're going to provide a lot more detail next week. Next Wednesday, December 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have a whole webinar on the Community Action Economic Mobility Initiative. We'll talk about the different elements of that initiative, including what a community of practice will be to really support a number of agencies in their efforts to shift to whole family. So I know there are many folks. I got a lot of emails over the last couple of days when people got their e-news, and people are really interested in learning more about this project. Stay with us and learn today. We're going to talk in a bit about how you apply to the Learning Community Group and the Community Action Community of Practice, but we'll also talk in more detail next week. So please join us if you want to know more next Wednesday. So just a little bit today on the Community Action Economic Mobility Initiative. It's really designed to support CAAs in their learning and their knowledge building around whole family approaches or two-generation approaches. And it's multi-tiered, as I said. It's going to try to meet community action agencies where they're at in their readiness for that shift. And it really is designed to support your efforts out there in community action agencies on breaking the cycle of intergenerational poverty. I think we're all interested in how to achieve more impact with families, how to combine and coordinate services, integrate services, so that we can achieve the very best for parents and children. And I think the resources that we have now from the Annie E. Casey Foundation will help us to do that. Some of you have been working on this. Perhaps you've been in a previous learning community group on service integration or blending services. And so maybe you've already taken some steps. Maybe you've been working on a theory of change around whole family approaches. Maybe you've done some staff training or restructuring. And so you've already been taking some steps. And you will probably find this community of practice is a better fit for you. Those of you who are just learning and just starting to ponder whole family or two-gen may be better suited to the whole family learning community group. So let me just talk a minute about the community of practice. We'll select 10 community action agencies for this intensive support. And the way that it's a little bit different than the learning community group is that those 10 community action agencies will get individualized one-on-one coaching to help them work through their theory of change and different implementation steps in their whole family approach. And then we're also going to have an initiative as part of this called the Community Action Data Interoperability Project. I know that's a long name, Tiffany, but it's a big issue, so we had to give it a long name. This will be technical assistance for those 10 community action agencies to think through how to capture outcomes for parents, children, and families together. And with all the different databases that many community action agencies have to use for different programs, that's really presented a challenge to many agencies. So they have a desire to serve the whole family, and then there's this data system challenge. And so with the 10 agencies in the community of practice, we're going to work on some solutions to that. And what we hope is that solutions for those 10 agencies will end up being solutions for many agencies. And what we learn through the interoperability project will help other agencies moving forward. So we're really excited about this opportunity. And we know that those 10 agencies will be at different levels with their data integration, and figuring out how to help those 10 will be a challenge, but we think there'll be a lot of learning in that. So we're really excited about that. So with that, I think that kind of sums up the community of practice, and there was just one more piece that we want to talk about that is sort of part of the Community Action Economic Mobility Initiative, and that's that in June of next year we'll be holding a Whole Family Approach Institute, which will be an event here in Washington, D.C. That'll be open to 30 community action agencies who are pursuing service integration or whole family approaches. We'll bring those folks together. We'll highlight the work that we're doing in the interoperability effort. We'll have a community action agency guide for whole family approaches. We'll have a lot of peer learning, work with folks on their theory of change, and provide peer support, bring in some of the community action agencies that are more advanced in this, who've been doing this work for a number of years, and allow them to provide some peer support to those of you just getting started. So we're really excited about that institute. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be releasing a lot more information about that and providing information about how to sign up. There will be a registration fee, so we can make sure that that's a robust, deep, good experience for everybody. But I think agencies that are sort of on the whole family 2-gen path will find that institute of great help. So I'm excited about this. It continues my work with the community action field, which I'm very, very thankful to the partnership to be engaged in that way. And we'll be talking and meeting a lot more about this. So Tiffany, I'll hand it back to you to talk to us a little bit more about the overall learning community resource effort.
For our intensive LCGs as well as our communities of practice, we are expecting that agencies apply versus individuals. And so when I say that, what I mean is that the application will be an agency application, and it will need to include at least 3 members of the agency staff, 1 person which is an agency decision maker, hopefully persons who are part of the program staff, and then staff members who have a deeper understanding of data analysis. And as we think about the configurations, or as you think about the potential configuration of your team, that team may just be specific to your agency. Depending on what your focus is, you may choose to involve your state association. We even have state associations who have formed teams and then worked with cohorts of other agencies within their state, the same with our state CSBG offices. And so the point is that everybody is welcomed and has an opportunity to participate, and as it relates to that configuration, it's important that you apply as an agency unit. And so the other things that we want to call out, which we've already kind of touched on, but we want to emphasize for you, are the benefits, because there are so many benefits to participating. And in addition to having that dedicated space for peer learning and peer sharing, that specialized technical assistance, access to subject matter experts, and we just have a wealth of experts that you all will have an opportunity to tap into. So, for example, this year, one of our new subject matter experts will be FSG. They focus specifically on collective impact and have contributed a lot in that space. But there are several other organizations, from Prosperity Now, the National Alliance to End Homelessness, and other individuals that you all have known throughout our work, who will be contributing to the body of knowledge that will hopefully build agency capacity. And so we've also talked about, that opportunity to enhance your strategies or your service delivery approaches, and then the ultimate benefit for the larger network. And so the next thing I want to emphasize on the next slide is that participants in our intensive and learning community groups and our communities of practice will be required or expected to attend regular meetings. There will be specific group meetings that happen on a monthly basis for the intensive learning community groups. In addition to that, there are national webinar presentations that group members will be assigned to participate in, and they can listen to those live or access those on demand. and there will be assignments associated with participation in the intensive learning community groups and the communities of practice that agencies are expected to complete in order to move their work forward. I've already spoken about the time frame, but I will emphasize that for intensive groups, it's for 1 year, and for the communities of practice, it is for 18 months. And so at this time, I'm very excited to now transition to what I call transformation stories, because you can listen to myself and Jeannie and Jarl all day, but there's some of you out there who still don't believe us. And so as a result, we have called on some of your peers to bear witness of transformation as a result of their experience within the learning community. And so I want to highlight a slide from your colleague, Toni Stottlemyre. A lot of you know her. She is Executive Director at Community Action Incorporated. She was a member of our Bundling Services to Improve Outcomes Learning Community Group during the last iteration. She is highlighted in our Anti-Poverty Practice Series publication on bundling services, and also a national webinar presentation that was presented as well. But the interesting thing that I would like to call out about Tani's agency is that in their initial assessment, they felt that they were in the very early stages of thinking about bundling services and doing the work. But the key for her agency was that they were ready to do the work. And so even though they were in those early maybe toddler or baby stages in terms of thinking about bundling services and doing the work, like I said, they were ready to do it. And through that process, even though maybe they didn't feel like they were the experts, they were able to learn a lot as a result of their experience and move their efforts forward, but also found that they were indeed able to be contributors to other peers and the larger network. And the thing I would highlight about what she said, she wrote to us, is that our consultants, talking about the subject matter experts, were fantastic resources, and we appreciated their free-to-us expertise. Can't beat that, I'm just telling you. So then at this time, I am happy to then transition to another one of your colleagues who is going to bear witness for us today, and that person is Rand Clark. He is at the Douglas County Department of Community Development, and he is a community of care navigator. So at this time, I'm going to just ask Rand if he would share a little bit with us.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for letting me have a chance to talk. Thanks to Tiffany and the team at CAP that ran a really wonderful learning community for us last few years. I was a member of the Bundled Services Learning Community. I was actually encouraged to join that community by Jarl a few years back at one of CAP's national conferences. Had a chance to talk to him about some of the things we were experiencing and some of the challenges that we were facing. We were in the beginning stages of building a bundled service approach, or an integrated care approach to helping address poverty in our community, and we're really wanting to take the next steps in terms of going to scale and serving more people, integrating the use of data, expanding our program and what we're able to do. And Charles said, hey, you should join a learning community group. It would be really helpful for us locally to engage with subject matter experts and to hear from some of our peers across the country. And so with his encouragement, we signed up for the learning community and really entered into that season a couple years ago, wanting to ask some questions about how we could take a small project that was a pilot project. We were serving about 20 families, and how could we double, triple, quadruple the size of what we were doing. And the big thing for us was how we could integrate the use of data systems. And so we entered the project thinking that that's what we were going to be working on. And through the learning that we obtained from listening to our peers and from learning from them, from the subject matter experts, was actually so much more than that. We really were walked through a very intentional process over the course of that first year that caused us to look at things like our theory of change, our frameworks of care, and really allowed us the space and the opportunity to dream up and to create some new systems and new approaches. And we had a sounding board in our peers and in the experts to say, hey, what do we think about this? Will it work? And for us, it really caused us to rethink some of our entire strategy and our entire process on how we bundled services. And today, as a result, I think we are able to much more effectively serve those we are serving. We've gone from 20 families to almost close to 60 it will be this year. In 2017, we're utilizing community data systems, and we're coordinating now this bundled work across 13 different agencies in our community. And so we were really excited about the opportunity. We had a tremendous time, not just from what we learned, but also the people that we got to connect with. It was great to get to know some of my peers across the country and to learn from them, and really to develop some friendships as well. Last thing I wanted to say is, the learning community group that we were a part of for those 20 months was a fairly big time commitment, but it was something that I felt was really valuable. It's the old saying that the more you put in, the more you're going to get out. And for those of us, I think, that were really impacted in a positive way by the learning community experience really was the agencies and the people that really invested the time and the energy and the effort into not just doing the homework and not just doing the work, but really applying it and really taking a good critical analytical look at our organizations and our programs and saying, how does this apply? What can we learn, and what can we do to become better and ultimately be a greater champion and a more effective provider of care to those that we are serving on a daily basis. And so if this is something you are interested in, I'd be happy to answer questions. You are welcome to contact me, shoot me an email in the chat, and I'd be happy to contact you. We'd be happy to answer your questions, but also would encourage you to jump in, dive in, and invest your time and energy into getting better every day at what we do so that we can have a greater impact across our community and across our country. Thanks for the chance to share, Tiffany.
Thank you very much, Rand. Thank you very much. So the other thing I will mention is Rand and his agency are also featured in our anti-poverty practice series, so definitely check out the newest publication on bundling services to improve outcomes case study. And so very quickly, I'd just like to highlight for everyone the criteria for being accepted into our intensive LCGs and our communities of practice. And so to be considered for our intensive LCGs, applying agencies basically must show evidence of implementation or practices related to the respective focus area. And so if you are an agency who is trying to just figure out what is integrated services or what is financial empowerment, however, there haven't necessarily been any steps that you've taken to sort of think through what that plan for change or implementation might be. It may be that the open learning community space is the space for you in that we are looking for agencies who have not only begun to think about the approach, but have made some efforts to pilot or move that work forward within the agency, and so would therefore be ready to focus more specifically about implementation of an enhancement related to that work. The other critical part of consideration for us is that the agency applies to be members of our intensive and our community of practice groups. And so with that said, our requirement is that the agency's leadership affirm and sign off on a commitment for the agency to participate, because the intent is that as a result of participation that the agency would basically make some changes or engage in a transformation that has programmatic implication, but it also just has larger organizational transformation implications as well, and we need everybody to be brought into that process. Additionally, this whole notion of connecting the dots back to data tracking and analysis is critical, and so we want to hear from agencies who participate, just their thinking and efforts that they have made in that space. And of course, as a result of participating in the groups, we will be able to provide some additional technical assistance related to that whole connecting back to data analysis as well. And for our prospective communities practice members or our whole family COP, there again, there has to be that evidence of having piloted programs or strategies related to whole family approaches and that advanced knowledge of service integration or bundling services or two-generation approaches. And so especially this group is open to everybody to apply, but I do want to put out a plug for some of our previous members of our learning community, especially for some of those agencies who have really advanced your work and you've been doing this work for several years. This may be the opportunity for you, and we just invite you to attend that special interest session that we've already mentioned that will take place next week to learn a little bit more about that. For the intensive learning community groups, we are targeting about 10 to 15 agencies to participate in each of those groups. Jeannie has already mentioned that within the community of practice, the target is a solid 10 agencies who will be designated to participate. The other thing is that that agency team that applies is really viewed as the core team for engagement within that learning community group. So that they're responsible for making sure that the agency attends all of the meetings, gets all the assignments done, but also is responsible for communicating back to the agency's leadership and the larger organization around key learnings and knowledge that can move the work forward. Next, to talk a little bit about the timeline, of course, we are participating in the kickoff webinar today. I will emphasize that the applications to apply for the learning community go live immediately following today's webinar. Those applications are due on January the 12th. Our team will review those applications, and we have committed to notifying persons or agencies who have been accepted into our intensive learning community groups as well as our community of practice by the end of January. I think that date is January 30th. Additionally, I would say regarding our open learning community groups that everybody who applies for an open group is accepted. I'll say it again. Everybody who applies for an open group is automatically accepted, and so there won't be any additional expectation of you to apply, and that then enables us to be able to start your learning journey in January of 2018. And we are anticipating starting out with our health intersections as well as our results at the community level open groups during that January time frame. We have already mentioned that there will be a whole family institute here in Washington, D.C. in June of 2018, and you'll be hearing from our team within the next week or two with more details pertaining to that. There's a cost associated with it. Agencies will have to register, and we just want you to go ahead and begin thinking about your potential involvement in that, and it will be held in conjunction with one of our other communities of practices convening our Rural Impact Group, because that group will be closing out its work, and it will be a wonderful opportunity for you to hear from peers from the Rural Impact Project about best practices and lessons learned pertaining to implementing the two-generation approach in rural and tribal places. really what I would encourage you to do is to download the application package and read through it, and it provides you with the questions in advance that you're going to have to answer, and then you can follow the steps that you will need to take to actually apply online at our Community Action Academy. And this slide, the How to Apply slide, provides you with some detailed steps on what you need to do to access Community Action Academy. And so for those of you who are good with just reading the instructions, they're here. You can just dive right in. For those of you who are in need of a little more of a hands-on or a little more hands-on support, immediately following our presentation, we would ask that you stay on the line, and our team will walk you through step by step on how to set up your account in Moodle. And so with that said, we have just a few minutes left on the clock for this segment of our presentation today, and I definitely wanted to give you all an opportunity to ask questions. And what I will say is, in the event that we run out of time in terms of responding to the question, we will put together an FAQ that we will email out to everyone as well to respond to questions and make that information available on the partnership website. And so I'm going to leave it to the team to call out questions that we need to give immediate response to. Are there any questions? Okay, and I'm told that they got sent to me in the chat window, or question and answer. Which one of those? Okay, I'm going to look in the chat window for questions. Sorry about that. Okay, yes. Will the slides be available after the webinar? The answer is yes, along with a recording. Is access to the Moodle Academy only available if you are part of the LCG, or could those who did not submit an application also access it? The answer is yes, you can access Community Action Academy, and there are some self-directed courses related to various of our learning community topic areas that you will have an opportunity to access during the course of the project. And as new courses are being introduced within that system, we will let the network know, but certainly there is an opportunity for engagement with that tool for learning. Let's see. Would TAAs from the learning community groups be offered reduced registration for the Whole Family Institute? I'm going to ask that we table that question, because our team is, what I can say is that our ability to do that is funded by the Annie E. Casey Foundation, which we are grateful for, and we are engaged in a process of trying to secure additional resources that might potentially offset the overall cost for participants, but we don't have a finite response to that today. And so stand by for the response to that. Let's see. Did I get all the questions? Jenny, you want to chime in on that?
We have a question about whether the Whole Family Institute and the Whole Family Approach Learning Community is for rural and tribal only. And I would just say that the Institute will be open to anyone interested in whole family approaches. And that goes the same for the Whole Family Approach learning community and community of practice. That is not just a rural or tribal issue. Our Rural Impact project, which is closed now, is specifically targeted to rural and tribal places, but the others are not.
Okay. So I think I have gotten all the questions. We want to thank you very much for taking the time out to join us. We do want you to join the learning community, because the learning community is for our entire network. We would invite those of you who would like to just go ahead and receive your hands-on guidance on how to get into Moodle to stay on the line, and I will pass the baton over to my wonderful colleague, Hyacinth McKinley, who will provide you with a walkthrough. And as she's preparing for that part of the live demo, I just want to thank the team again from the partnership for their efforts to make today happen. We are excited to support you. Our contact information is available. You can contact any one of us to ask questions via email. Also want to thank Rand again. He did offer his email address in the chat, and we'll make sure that everybody can access that. And I now feel bad because I should have also included a slide to list all of the participating agencies from our last iteration of the learning community. But if you go to our blog, which is lcrcweb.com, you're able to see what those agencies are, and I'm sure that any one of those agencies would be happy to speak with you about their experience and how you can make the most of your engagement with the learning community. We thank you again for your time. At this time, I am going to, let's see, is there another question? Okay, and so that question is a data question, and we're going to look at it real quick. And it's, let's see, regarding technical assistance, if accepted into the learning community group, would the TA support it's related to the data system. Would you be able to receive technical support related? Oh, yes, okay.
Do you think that might be a question, Tiffany, related to the community action interoperability?
Yeah, you want to say something about that? Thank you.
And so if the question is if you're accepted into the whole family community of practice, the technical assistance related to data interoperability, it would be on their existing systems. So that's part of the beauty of this, is that we would work with agencies no matter what their systems are and try to find solutions. So we've learned some good, we have some good learnings that will be varied because we know all agencies use different systems. So it will meet you where you're at, and it will build on that.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All righty. And so are we ready for the live demo?
So we're going to get started with the live demo in about 2 minutes. So if you're interested in receiving a step-by-step walkthrough on how to submit your learning community application, please stay on the line and we'll get started shortly. Thank you.
But I'm Hyacinth McKinley, and I'm going to be walking you all through how to apply to the learning community utilizing Community Action Academy. So to reiterate, Community Action Academy is our new online platform supported by Moodle, which will serve as one of our primary learning tools across our various learning community offerings. We're going to drive you all right to using this platform right off the bat, and we're going to do it by having you submit your applications here. So first, please begin by going to moodle.communityactionpartnership.com, and you're going to start by creating your free account. So you're going to click down here, and you're going to go ahead and fill in the application, fill in the information needed to go ahead and set up your account. Oh, I can't see the other thing. That's just a second, because apparently you guys are seeing a Word document, so please stand by. Okay. Okay. All right. So now you should be able to see my screen. But what you're going to do is you're going to go back to moodle.communityactionpartnership.com, and then you're going to select create your new account. So what you're going to do is, of course, enter in your access information. For the sake of time, I'm not going to bore you guys all. I'm sure you know how to sign up for stuff online, but you're going to fill out all of the information. Again, noting that all of the things with an exclamation point next to it are required information. And then you're going to select Create My New Account. So once you do so, about 5 to 10 minutes after you do that, you should receive a confirmation email that looks a little bit something like this. You should receive a confirmation email from our colleague and resident Moodle expert, Courtney Kohler, just confirming that your account has been generated and that you're ready to log in for Moodle. But please note that it might take a little bit of time. It might vary on how long it's going to take for you to receive that email, but if you don't receive it within an hour or so, please reach out to us. You can reach out to Courtney directly at ckohler@communityactionpartnership.com, and she'll help you get sorted out there. But you'll get a follow-up email, confirmation email. Once you do that, you're going to click the link that's in that email, and then you're going to be able to log in normally as you would. So you're going to go back to moodle.communityactionpartnership.com. You're going to enter in your login information that you just confirmed, and you're going to log in. The computer's thinking about it. There's a lot of exciting stuff on Moodle, so it takes a little while to pull up. But here you go. So once you log in, you're going to be taken to your home screen. And I'm going to walk you through a couple of the features that you see here. But really what we're going to focus on is located down here at the bottom of the screen where you can see your available courses. So it looks like we're going to keep going, but once you log into Moodle, you should be able to see the home dashboard screen. When you log in, located on the left-hand corner of your screen, you're going to see a couple of navigation windows. Particularly, you're going to see your dashboard, which is where you're going to be able to access all of your progress across the various groups that you're engaged in. Next, you'll see the calendar, which is where you can find all of the related learning community events, activities, assignment due dates, things like that, and of course, private files, which is where you'll find anything that you have uploaded to your Moodle account. Scrolling down a little bit further, you're going to see our site news page. That's where any important news or updates that relates to everyone that's joining us through our Moodle platform, you'll be able to see that there. And you can also see, looking down here in the right-hand corner, you'll actually be able to submit any comments or questions that you have per each item as it comes. But as I mentioned before, where we're going to be spending our time is down here under the available courses, and of course you're going to be applying for the learning community. So what happens once you click on that, you should be able to enroll in this course on your own, but you click down here where it says Enroll Me. There shouldn't be any limitations to this course. You might encounter that once we launch our actual groups, there might be some limitations on what you can see, depending on what group you're enrolled in and when it's released. So now you should be able to see the application for the 2018 Learning Community page. So on this page you can see here up at the top, it provides you with a basic overview of the learning community, resource center, a lot of the things that we talked about in today's presentation, and of course a re-explanation of the various groups that we're going to be offering that you all can apply to. So once you scroll through all that information and you read through it thoroughly, the first thing that you're going to come across is this little section that says Application Instructions. So what you're going to do, the first thing you need to do is go ahead and download this Application Package 2018. Tiffany mentioned it towards the end, but this is a very important document that has everything that you're going to need to really walk through an explanation of what you're signing up for when you engage in the learning community. And it also provides you with essential information such as our calendar for the next year and a summary of the questions that you're actually going to be asked to respond to in the actual application that we're going to get to in a moment. And it also provides a more in-depth review of our Community Action Economic Mobility Initiative that Jeannie was talking about. You are very strongly encouraged to read this document thoroughly before you proceed to submit your application through SurveyMonkey. So we're going to use our imagination. You and your team have gotten together, you read through that application package really thoroughly, and you guys are ready to apply to the learning community. So your next step is you're actually going to click here where it says SurveyMonkey Application, and this is going to take you to this actual application. This is where you're going to enter in all of your information, your team's contact info, and what you're hoping to get out of the learning community. So you can see here on the screen, this is the intro page. You're going to fill in your name and some information, your team's contact information, and then once you do that, it will prompt you to select the group that you want to apply to. Please note that if you're interested in applying to multiple learning community groups or our community of practice, you will need to enter a unique application for each of the groups that you're interested in applying for. So, okay, so we're going to fast forward. You guys have completed that application, and it's perfect, and it's great. So now we're going to come back to Moodle, and we're going to do one last step, which is to upload your letter of commitment for the different group that you're applying for. As Tiffany mentioned, agency participation and commitment is required, and a way that we like to define that is to just have you all sign this brief letter of commitment and get your ED to sign off on it. So let's go ahead and pretend that we want to apply to this Integrated Services to Improve Impact LCG. So let's go ahead and pull that up, and when you click on that to download the blank letter of commitment that you see up here at the top, you should get something that looks kind of like this. So you'll get a PDF that you can download and fill out, but really it just outlines what you're committing to by participating in the learning community, and you fill out the name of your agency, and you're going to get the signature of your ED and the date. Once you do that, you're going to scan it, and then you're going to upload it right here. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So we're uploading to the Integrated Services group. I'm going to click on that link. Okay, so now you should be able to see the submission page. So you scroll down to Add Submission, and this is where you're going to upload the signed version of your document. Okay, so you see once it finishes loading that you have the option to either just drag and drop your file straight over, or you can actually upload it directly from your computer, which is what I'm going to show you how to do. So from the file picker screen, you're going to go over to upload a file. Thinking about it. Like I said, a lot of great things here on Moodle. It just gets so excited sometimes it takes a little bit. Okay, so you're going to choose your attachment. Okay, so you're going to choose your attachment, and here's another very important step. We need you to save it with a specific nomenclature when you're adding your letter of commitment up to Moodle to make sure that we can align it with the application that you complete on SurveyMonkey. So the nomenclature that we would like for you to use is put the name of your agency. So on that form you saw that I had, we are from the example agency, letter of commitment, dash the name of the full name of the group that you're applying for. So we're applying for the Integrated Services. I can type. To improve outcomes LCG. So pretend that I spelled that right, but you get how to do it. You see that nomenclature. Again, you need to do the name of your agency, letter of commitment, and then the full name of the learning community group or community of practice that you're applying to. So once you get that right and you spell it right, you're going to upload this file. And it's uploading. You can see down here, thinking about it. Still thinking about it. It's almost done thinking about it now. Okay, so once it uploads, you will come back to that submission screen, and you should be able to see, the PDF of the document that you uploaded. You can click on it again to review it to make sure that it's correct before you go ahead and click on Save Changes. So once you do that, it'll bring you back to the submission status page. Again, one last chance if you want to edit it. If you realize something's not right, you have the option to do that, but otherwise you're going to go ahead and submit your assignment. You're going to click on that. You're going to click this to confirm that this document was reviewed by you and your team, and as far as you are aware, it is the best of your ability what you need for this group. You're going to click on Continue. thinking about it again. Okay, it's going to show now that your submission has been submitted for grading, which basically means that we got it. When you do that, you should immediately get a confirmation email from Moodle saying that you submitted the following document. It'll provide you with the name of the PDF that you just uploaded, and that way you know for sure that you have uploaded everything correctly. Once you receive that email, your application to the learning community is actually complete. You're all set. You'll have until close of business on January 12th, 2018 to complete this process that we've reviewed together this afternoon. But of course, if you have any questions that arise as you're completing this process, you can reach out to the members of the LCRC team, and that information is provided at the bottom of your course page. So thank you for joining us, but with that, that's actually going to conclude our demo for today, and that's going to conclude officially today's webinar presentation. So thank you, and we'll see you online next time.